Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Young. I'm just going to walk you through the Ontario economy, a perspective from October 2016. So there'll be a bunch of trends here from previous years where I could get data on whether it's 2014 or 2015. But what I want to do is highlight the issues that impacting the economy from the government policies to the various sectors. Here's a little bit of brief bio about myself. I'm a CPA CGA by trade. I have extensive experience in business, academia, and financial solutions. So I'll look at the Ontario GDP, I'll look at growth, I'll start looking at some of the key sectors, I'll get into competitiveness, but I'll break it down into pieces, and I'll talk about a little bit overall on government policies. So if you look at GDP in Canada, it's about $2 trillion. That being said, Ontario still accounts for about 36.6% of the GDP, with the key sectors being automotive, steel production, fabrication, food processing, forestry. So it's still a key area in terms of manufacturing output. So it's a key area to understand as you're moving forward with debate on policies. This also gives you a trend. When we look at GDP, we look at GDP in real growth, in nominal growth. So if you look at GDP forecast for Ontario, it's about 2.7 to 2.4% for the next few years. It's actually one of the higher growing areas in the country next to BC, but to bear in mind, a lot of that's be driven by demand in transportation sector for automotive. So you have to look at the numbers and you have to peel behind what I call the banana to look at the surface in terms of the details. Now, with manufacturing, this is a good indication here. If you look at the comparison between 2014 and 2015, it only grew about 2%. And most of that was driven by transportation. Quickly about foreign direct investment. So Canada's a small market. It depends on sources from outside Canada to invest. So what you've seen in Ontario's case is we're still a top 4 jurisdiction for investment. However, if you look at the countries that are picking up investment, they're starting to grow, like Florida, Georgia, North Carolina. They're the deep sell. If you look at New York and Texas, they've got different structures in play, from corporate taxes to hydro rates. They have a little bit more control over their policies. So tend to see when you look at business investment, they're going to invest where they get a return. Key comments on Ontario's economy. I picked up a few things to reflect here. Ring of Fire, which is a huge chromite deposit that's been out there for a decade, but we still haven't been able to get shovels in the ground to get it out of the ground to export. We have policies like hydro rates, which are some of the highest in Canada, that are impacting business decisions, and that includes forestry. And this talks a little bit about hydro rates, where Canada, Ontario's case, has some of the highest in all of Canada. I like to look at red tape because red tape involves everything from taxation policies to filling out forms, environmental assessments. Ontario has a B rating, but that's likely to change as they impose more policies, especially in the area of carbon taxation. So if we look at competitiveness, this is just a survey where they're trying to talk about, and I have talked about this on previous presentations, the need to have what I call is cluster zones or incubation centers in order to help take ideas from market, from innovation to market. Housing starts a key area, but it's also an area that housing costs have come out of control in Ontario, and it's something to bear in mind because it's leading to consumer debt issues on household spending. Retail sales is another key area that drives the economy. It's hardly growing by leaps and bounds. It's only growing at 2%, and almost it's growing at a pace equal to the GDP growth. Household spending is a key area of the economy because it will drive consumer spending. In Ontario's case, they spend 31% of their budgets all related to household spending. And household spending means from the mortgages to the hydro rates as part of the overall maintaining shelter. Also, too, I've got food costs that were some of the lowest, but that's going to be impacted by 6 to 8% to do when the carbon pricing kicks in 2017. Employment. Now, you have to look beyond in terms of employment, in terms of the sector created. And overall in Canada, we've only going to be creating about 50,000 new jobs, and most of them are part-time. So the economy is very sluggish. So the tendency in a sluggish economy is to create part-time jobs. Where are the jobs in 2016? Well, manufacturing, public administration, transportation, finance, retail, trade. But if we pull it back, public administration, that's government. So if you're adding more government jobs, that becomes into sustainability. If we're talking about transportation, public utilities, that means we're building transportation systems, also public utilities, we're expanding the grid. Wholesale retail trade, they tend to pay a little bit lower in income, and it's something to bear in mind. It also will be driven in terms of automation as more e-commerce initiatives take place. Now, the last bit of this presentation I want to talk about is government debt and deficit. In Ontario's cases, we're still running deficits here. Deficits get added to the debt and at some point have to be paid down. So this is the slide that I want to really focus on here. Is if you look at the overall government net debt, it's $305 billion. But that's not the critical aspect, and you'll see in the next slide. From 2008 to 2016, in 8 years, we have doubled the debt. At some point, that debt has to be paid down. Now, either you pay it down by slashing program spending or you raise taxation. And I've got a nice little video that you can find out about socialism, and that's where Margaret Thatcher talks about government spending beyond its means. It's coming to a point in Ontario that we've got particular government here that believes Keynesian economics, which is spend money, is going to lead to prosperity. That's not the case. Prosperity is led by private sector investment. Private sector investment creates jobs. Those jobs then create income. That income is then what the government relies on in taxation. The government seems to think they can stimulate an economy by throwing all this money, but in a lot of cases 40% of that money gets wasted, never makes it to its true options in terms of programs. So what's next? Well, Ontario's at a crossroads here. They've got significant challenges faced here. One of the things that's masking its overall potential is the fact that we have a low dollar right now. So some of these pressures on hydro rates don't feel the impact on business as much as they would. However, over time, hydro rates are having a significant influence on businesses from small, medium to large size business as they reposition where they want to be. Red tape. Now, Ontario has a B rating in red tape. However, that's a little bit of a misnomer to that. We have significant delay in projects, especially in the north, where we've got mining projects like the chromite deposit we haven't been able to get out of the ground. If we're trying to create new jobs in production facilities, there's a lot of red tape from municipal, provincial, to get things done. Arbitration system is completely broken. So that puts pressure on municipal budgets that now have problems delivering program spending at the municipal level. That impacts infrastructure spending as well as other aspects of municipal spending. We also have provincial governments that are too big in size that have not put priorities in focusing on an economy, but have focused more on growing government jobs. Innovation has always been a big issue here. Now, we've seen a lot of improvement there in different areas. There's some funds that have been created both provincial and federal levels that help stimulate innovation. However, the overall economic conditions are going to be driven by the climate. Now, in Ontario's case, is as they move more to high hydro rates and carbon taxation, they're actually moving to Ontario less competitive. So why would a business locate in Ontario when it's going to be less competitive to other jurisdictions that don't have high hydro rates or have carbon pricing? And it's something that governments don't seem to understand when they start pushing pro-agenda on a climate change. You need to have a right balance of policies to address climate, address other issues with the environment, but it can't be all left and it can't be all right. So it has to be a balanced approach. The other thing impacting Ontario right now is their export business is strong because what's happening in the U.S. The U.S. has a stronger economy right now, and we picked up a lot of our exports there. But globally, we've got issues with slow growth. So if at a 3.1% growth, we're pretty close to what we call as a global recession. And now what's going to happen is Ontario doesn't have the means, because it's already in high deficit financing, to withstand another deficit in terms of any sort of stimulus. That's key. The other point I brought into is Ontario business investment. And this is where you're seeing capital investment come in. That's part of the overall productivity. Ontario's been lagging because businesses haven't invested. Why? Again, it may be coming back to both consumer demand for their products, access to market, as well as government policies that may make them less profitable in this jurisdiction. So it's something to bear in mind. In 2018, we'll have an election. And right now, there's a lot of rhetoric going around the election. But what it should be focused on is hydro rates, the economy, delivering program spending. I don't mean that the party should talk about cutting government jobs. What they should be doing is realigning how they can better service their needs on limited tax dollars. And it has to be positioned that way. Government debt. How is the government going to rein in on its debt to ensure that it has a debt management strategy? Taxation. We don't have a revenue problem in Ontario. We have a spending problem. As much as what government will tell you, they are not living within their means. And that's something that needs to be pushed out as part of the next agenda to run government like a business to make sure that it lives within its means. Now, this presentation is only one view and perspective on the Ontario economy, but it's designed for a couple reasons. One, to get you to ask questions of your MP. Also, to understand the impact of a particular policy that will impact your household budget, also your career choices. As we go through this generation of 22 to 38, as what we call is job churning market, it's very important to understand the fundamentals which are going to drive job creation in areas to target where you're potentially going to see improvements in terms of job success rates to get your next career. So I encourage people to watch different videos, even follow me on my YouTube channel because I've got different videos related to economic trends, career management, that kind of get people to discuss the issues facing them to put pressure on their leaders to make sound policy decisions. Thank you.